Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel, COS6. I'm your host for tonight, Kai. And today, we're going to be getting into the Butterfly Soup review video. Not a character analysis that I totally didn't scrap for this video. It's currently 10 o'clock, which is probably like the earliest I've recorded, honestly. And I don't want to keep this intro too long, so let's get right into the first question of the day, or the night, I should say. Have you ever kissed someone of the same gender, or held hands, or just been around someone of the same gender, and then realize, you might be gay, you might be lesbian, you might be out there, or you at least think you could be gay or bi or non-binary, any of those things, but then remember that you have homophobic parents. Then you've related to, I'd say, about 45-50% of Butterfly Soup. And who doesn't like feeling understood and heard? On one side, you have the fact that you have homophobic parents. Very, very bad, right? But on the other, there's something out there that you can relate to. And, I like having media that I can relate to. Don't let the name off-put you, though. Butterfly Soup isn't actually about turning butterflies into soup or putting butterflies in soup. At least not to my knowledge. But it's about 3 lesbians and a bisexual girl playing baseball in high school. If you've already clicked off the video just off of that, I don't like you. Anyway, I really want to talk about my dislikes mainly in this video. But I do later on talk about something that I do like about Butterfly Soup. But I want to talk about the characters first. And this is totally not for watch time and video length. Because, I would never do that. To start off, we have Dia. She's more of the quiet type, I'd say. And she's been playing baseball since she was young. Like around early elementary school. I can't speak. And despite being made fun of for being a girl during elementary school, she kept playing baseball, and she played baseball so well and so often that there was a rumor that she had a six-pack around 3rd grade, which is kind of crazy if you ask me. She fits perfectly into the gentle giant role, in my opinion, because of her overwhelmingly large love of dogs and the fact that she's quite literally a giant. She's 5'10" in the 9th grade, which is insane. There's some guys I know that are in 11th that aren't 5'10". After her, though, we have Akarsa, a personal favorite of mine. Have you ever gone to school mad at something that happened earlier that week, or even that same day, and you're thinking to yourself, I don't think anything is gonna get me out of how mad I am, bro. Even if they have my favorite lunch, that spaghetti, at my school, that's not gonna get me out of this funk. But then you see that one friend, and they walk up to you, they start talking, and now you're laughing out of nowhere. Well, that's kind of what it's like being friends with Akarsha. I can only assume because I don't know. It's a game at the end of the day. She's more the comedian of the group, and if I were to describe her using the alignment chart, I'd say she's either, a neutral good or chaotic neutral, which is kind of what I am. Moving on, we have Min. They're the hothead of the group. Not like Bakugo kind of hothead, but if she had those abilities, I wouldn't be surprised if she was a crash out like him. Being raised by rebellious parents kind of caused them to enter their rebellious phase really early. And by early, I mean elementary school. They cut their hair short, they wore boyish clothes, they started smoking, even stabbed someone. But none of that even adds up to what I'm about to tell you. Worst of all, among all those previous crimes I just listed, they did the unthinkable. I can't even say it. They joined the baseball club. Oh my god, the horror. I need to stop joking around. I'm not good at jokes. I need to stop. Anyway, lastly, we have Noelle. She is like the dictionary definition of a nerd with a grade average of A triple plus. She's like what every parent wishes their kid could be. And I mean that like wholeheartedly, bruh. She follows every rule and law to a T and can't really stand people who break rules, even if it was to help her. If you've seen me talk about the first game, then you probably know what I'm talking about. She's like those kids who skipped 5 grades and graduated MIT with valedictorian status at like 14 that your parents showed you growing up and wondering why you didn't turn out like them. I wrote in my notes something about talking earlier about the story. I didn't mention anything about talking about the story because I didn't plan on talking about this story because I already have videos on the story. So go watch those if you need more of the story. Anyway, getting into one of the things that I don't like is the lack of importance some of the supporting characters have, which I know sounds a bit oxymoronic, but let me explain what I mean. When I say supporting characters, I really mean Krissa and Liz. Since I decided to skip over the story, and most of you probably aren't gonna watch or haven't watched my previous videos, you have no idea who those two people are. Krissa and Liz are the two seniors who are part of the baseball club, along with Min, Dia, Akarsha, Noel, and the others. I'm not going to name the others because I don't know their names. This school is quite literally too diverse to have anyone actually interested in baseball to have a school baseball team. So they just took over and became the baseball club, but they still use, the diamond. Liz is the main reason why Dia joined the club because she invited her to join earlier on in the game. Don't know why I wrote that, I just did. Krissa and Liz were like mothers to the gang, but if I'm being completely honest, I don't know why with that in mind, I don't know why they weren't around more in the game. But if I'm just gonna take my personal opinion out of this, I can kind of only see one reason why, but this isn't even like a fully fledged reason. And that's the fact that they were already seniors when the game took place. And I guess it'd be harder to get in a lot of screen time for those characters with them being seniors, I guess. But I still think that they could have appeared more. And I'm not even saying that there should have been, whole new scenes with whole new background, sprites, music, and sound effects and all that. But I wish the scenes that did take place involving them, like when they went to that buffet, focused on them a bit. And even with the whole scene between Min and Noel, where Min was talking to Noel and she found a good place to take Dia on a date, I feel like it wasn't that crazily important. Even with the fact that, as I said earlier, Min found a place to take Dia on a date. Like, they could have focused on the friendship or relationship that they have between Krissa and Liz, or put Krissa and Liz into the conversation, kind of adding more advice that Noel already gave to Min, or something like that. At the end of the day, she's the one with a successful game, I'm not. One thing I will praise is the conversation between Liz and Min during the second game. From how Liz approached Min to the fact that she kept it brief really touched me. Despite me not relating to Min's situation in any way, it still really hit me in my core. To explain what I'm talking about, earlier that day, the baseball club was at the lake, filming a video for school. And Min tells Dia that they don't like being thought of as a girl and don't want strangers immediately coming to the idea of, oh, that's a woman, because they say that's disgusting. But they aren't against the idea of Dia still calling them her girlfriend. Later after that, when the group is done filming and they're just chilling at the park bench, after a while everyone starts to pack up and leave. But Liz stops Min while everyone else is ahead of them to talk to them and tell them that she overheard the conversation between them and Dia. Liz writes down a website called genderfork.com which sadly got shut down in 2018, which helps people, more specifically non binary people, with their gender identity, and tells men that she's always there to help with advice about their gender identity. I really, really loved this scene. This is kind of what cemented Butterfly Soup 2 specifically as my favorite game of all time. I feel like the fact that Liz was not only someone that men grew close to over the course of that ninth grade year, but the fact that she was a senior is kind of part of the reason why men really listened to that advice. I don't really know what I'm trying to get at here. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to just keep reading my notes. For what I know about men as a character, they wouldn't have really listened to that advice from someone their age. And it really stuck with them that someone older than them is giving them positive, encouraging advice because the older people in their life were not supportive of them in the slightest. But I'm probably talking out of my neck. This is really just a reach. Going on to the second and last thing I didn't really like about the game. The fact that there are a handful of moments where there were callbacks to things of the past from before the game takes place, albeit the references are short. The main one I want to talk about happens in the second game, my personal favorite out of the two, because it's so lore heavy. The callback I'm referring to is Akarsa's middle school crush. When Akarsa was in middle school, she had this crush who she asked out, but her crush rejected her, told the friend group they were a part of about what had happened, and that caused the friend group to stop talking to her, which I feel like was entirely uncalled for. And I feel like that kind of goes without saying. I feel like this one singular short story that Akarsa told men is important to the overall story of Butterfly Soup because we get so much added detail from it. And that kind of adds to Akarsa's personality and character. But you can very well make the argument of just because it adds detail doesn't really mean it's important. And that's correct. Usually. Over-explanation is the death of a lot of stories. But this isn't over-explaining anything. In this case, it's under-explaining, in my opinion. This is so important to not only the story, in my opinion, but Akarsa's character. It explains why she fears rejection so much and why she has such a fear of failure that she builds up situations where she has to fail to feel in control. This situation led her to feeling the need to be funny all the time for people to fall for her. And with her role being the sort of comedian in the group, I feel like this is majorly important. I feel like with an effect this large and long lasting on her, it deserves to be explored more than a one-off sentence. And I believe that the whole reason Akarsa tries to force herself into this comfortable loneliness that she has become accustomed to, or tries to become accustomed to, I should say, is because of this situation. And I don't think it's that crazy or outlandish to say it deserves to be talked about more. Because, again, I sound like a broken record, but it is so important. That's about all I have for that part. Let's pause for some ads while I talk about what I do like. Well, before I talk about what I do like. And also, Akarsa is really just the female video game version of me, because when I say Akarsa is just, again, video game me, I mean it. Everything about me is just projected through her, if that sounds not crazy at all. Anyway, to start things off and kind of end things off, I really like the representation. The entire main cast is Asian, but not in a TikTok white boy, oh, I want a girlfriend, but they really mean Japanese girl kind of way. What I mean by that is Akarsa and Dia are Indian, Noelle is Taiwanese, and Minseo is South Korean. All very diverse, if you ask me. This cast is one of the more diverse I've seen, without feeling like they're all DEI hires, if that makes sense. It doesn't feel forced. I also feel like the fact that they come from countries where homophobia is more common adds to the story's overall deepness and relatability, while shining a light on the lives of kids with homophobic parents to those who can't relate, but also acting as a source of comfort to those who do have to live with homophobic parents. Like the fact that the game takes place in 2009, technically 2008, soon after Prop 8 had passed, or Proposition 8, which banned gay marriage. It allows people who weren't around during that time to see what it was like in a way. And don't get me wrong, even if you were to take out the idea of homophobia from the game, I feel like it'd be a story just as beautiful and meaningful to everyone who has played it, but a lot of the tension and adversities would be almost non existent, especially within the second game. And me personally, I'd kind of want to see how the group would do in this kind of alternative timeline where everything was a bit more peaceable and they didn't have to worry about Prop 8 passing. They didn't have to worry about homophobic parents. They could just be themselves. I wonder if the game would be shorter or longer. If it was longer, what would it add? If it was shorter, besides homophobia, what would it take out? But that's about all I have for this video, honestly. I wanted to do a bit more, but I'm tired and I'm working on a deadline. So, you get what you can have. You don't wish for too much. School's starting up soon, which isn't entirely bad if you ask me. I kind of miss school after a while of being on summer break. But hopefully videos aren't as slowed down as they used to be. Because school was kind of part of the reason why my videos took forever to come out. It just took up so much of my time. But hopefully I can devote more time to doing YouTube while also devoting the same amount of time to my schoolwork so I don't fail. I somehow got into the higher grade classes. I'm not telling y'all which grade because y'all don't need to know, but I somehow got into the higher grade classes, and that's kind of shocking to me. There's a bunch of anime that I want to make videos on. I actually made a list of every anime that I've ever watched that I can remember watching, and I want to talk about those. I definitely won't be able to talk about all of them, but I want to talk about some of them. And I want to talk about Scott Pilgrim too. Scott Pilgrim is a big movie for me. I don't know why I'm yapping so much. Y'all probably aren't even at the end of this video, I'm not gonna lie. And if you are, I wish you a wonderful night, day, evening, whatever time it may be for you. And never stop working. You can always get there. But I'll see you later.